and the safety of their staff and personnel.
There's from my experience of working with facility managers, they always keep a log of what has happened. And
Well, they're supposed to. I've asked for that, and many times they say I didn't have time to fill it out.
Yeah. And then if they do log it like they're supposed to, and they say, okay, this machine went down because of this, and it cost us $5 million to fix. Part of the selling portion would be like, okay, you're saving money on between 5 to 8 to 10% of your monthly bill, but as an added bonus, all these issues that you suffer from because of these issues can be mitigated, saving you millions of dollars more in labor, insurance, and replacing stuff and retraining people.
Yeah. And loss of customer confidence and goodwill.
Yeah.
Because loss of productivity.
And when we talk about savings, we need to quantify what savings we're talking about. Don't just say savings.
Yeah.
Say comprehensive savings or aggregated savings or something. Because when the energy industry talks about savings, they immediately go towards the real power. How much real power can I reduce? And they're not thinking about the reactive power and the penalties that they're paying.
It's the low-hanging fruit.
In some cases, the reactive power is costing the plant more in losses than they're paying in penalties. This is because the utility don't have a stiff charge for that.
So whoever
Not all
gets
utilities are on the same platform for charging against demand and power factor. There's no standard. It's completely utility specific and customer specific.
If you're not paying a low power factor penalty, I mean, they still get a huge benefit from the SB1000.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But a little tougher sell.
It depends. It depends on what business they're in, what kind of loads they got, if they've had problems in the past or not.
Damage equipment, downline equipment.
Depends on the quality of power coming in. So if they're giving you, like we've got one facility online right now, 6% distortion coming into the building. Double what it needs, what was allowable. And the guy on the phone from the corporate office told the guy at this facility, guys, if that building was in Europe, this building would be shut down.
because of 6% THD.
Yeah. In Europe, you cannot pollute the grid. We have a lot more stringent requirements over there. So there'll be in a way, a kind of a harder sell in Europe, but there's other benefits, you know. But the thing about it is, not only are your loads on the increase, so reactive power, those numbers I showed you about how much reactive power is costing, is only going to get bigger. But so the market's ripe for this kind of thing. It's just developing a process to launch it and to build the customer confidence, because the customer's mentality now in the past 10 to 15 years is all built on how many watts of power can I save, and how efficient is the end use piece of equipment, the piece at the end of the circuit.
I mean, we should almost be, since whoever gets to the first large industrial sale and implementation is going to unlock a lot of value for everybody, we should almost be talking about pooling resources to get to one large sale, and somehow sharing the benefits of it. But I don't think any of us are going to really do anything at this scale. We could all try to do lots of little sales, one-offs, but that's expensive.
Well, you can't afford not to, because it takes too many resources to get a whole long list of little sales.
That's what I'm saying.
You're not getting anything out of it, really.
That's what I'm saying.
You're not developing your storyline
right
to the extent you need to be able to go talk to these customers.
Right.
They're not going to talk to you based on what happened at a McDonald's.
MHT as an institution, manufacturer, should be doing that.
Well, I'm inferring that without saying it, because that's what these guys need to take to.
We've already done that.
No, I know, but I know you guys have been working on it.
We've done what?
Institutionally, there's
Standstill.
a institutional
Mild it.
shortfall with regards to achieving what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
that is not lacking in other, or like, so this is a unique technology.
Yeah.
But if we're to do, similar
Lighting
technologies,
use.
there's a definite shortage with regards to tech support or resources available to quickly
Yeah,
resolve a lot of this and come to a 60-80% solution.
I agree.
But in lieu of that, yes, I'm more than happy to share information, that I can share based off of the clients that I have. And,
I'll share with you guys, not with Mike.
But I think because most of the stuff I have to sign NDAs with.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But essentially, I'm as transparent as can be under the circumstances. But I'm more than happy to share that information because I think ultimately it does expand and we can all build on the same learning process.
But you all understand the challenges I'm trying to explain and the reason why you have to move through it carefully until you build up something in your database that increases your chances for gaining that customer confidence in the first conversation. Not the whole confidence, but it's going to take several visits, but you want them to call you after the first visit and say, when are you coming back to talk to me about this? That's what you want.
So like, the way, just so you understand, like you get an idea of like the cycle. So you spend about 3 months making contacts. You go out and for 2 weeks I do nothing. Like I literally don't sleep, just meeting after meeting after meeting. Build that relationship, and then you go away, and they're anticipating something within a week.
Yeah.
If I don't give them something within a week, it's out of sight, out of mind. Then I have to go. Then 3
Start
months
over.
later, I have to go back over there and do the same thing.
Start over
We're like,
again.
where were you?
Yeah,
we
why
waited
didn't
for you. We just went
Yeah.
and did this.
Yeah.
And so why? Because it's the Emirates. They have a lot of money, and they know everybody's in there. So
And they're very busy.
yeah.
and
So
you-
that's
what
why
you
I have
need
an
is
office and an agent there. But that's
You need
still,
a stack of resources that explain what this is all about, from the beginning to the end, that you just hand them. And of course, we're going to get to the point where we're going to hand you an analysis report. But you have to keep that information constantly going to the customer so that you keep them on the hook. You make them want more. You know how this works.
No.
But
Until you get the close.
in this business, it's different because you're dealing with an abstract subject. Okay, you're dealing with energy efficiency, which people have already been pre-programmed on. You're trying to roll out something a little bit different, and it's hard for them to grasp the benefits. It's hard for them to grasp what the financial benefits are going to be for the investment.
Other than that, it's easy.
What's the bump, the bump?
So this is the same system, a
Yes,
little bit
those
more
are
simple,
never-
but
And I tell you what it is about a lot, relationships.
it is.
It's about relationships.
It's
If you can get a
relationships and them knowing that you have technical support behind you, because it's to them. I mean, you're talking to an engineer, and the engineer's going to want to talk to another engineer about it.
Don't
See,
you have any cousins?
I don't want to toot my credentials too much, but when I get on the phone with facility engineers and I start talking to them about my background, they're immediately latched in because they know that by knowing me and talking to me about their problems, they've got an excellent resource to come back to, aside from the fact of what we're dealing with on the phone. But they instantly magnetize to us because of our past experiences with utilities and manufacturers, that we know what's going on the power system and how to handle it, and how to handle the difficult questions, and how to handle sitting in a room full of, at a table with people pointing fingers at each other, which I hope you never have to do.
kind of like a nerd herd.
Yeah, it's kind of like a
Except they're all ready to sue
I
each
like
other.
that one.
Phil, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
And I do about 2 weeks worth of investigation before I ever go to that meeting, because I will be prepared.
Let me ask you this. If you were in our position, right, and you were trying to figure out how to turn the gauge between starting to invest money in getting as many of these conversations started as possible and so forth and so on, given what we talked about, because to your point earlier, you asked if we understood what you were trying to communicate. I think it's because we're understanding what you're communicating that we're trying to kind of help each other think through possibilities.
Yeah,
of how to do this.
absolutely.
So if you were in our position, do you? What would be your, I guess, conservative approach? Would you just kind of go out, raise some money, and self-fund 2 or 3 of these case studies where you're trying to build that momentum, or would you kind of still hold out for the very friendly customer that's able to take that leap of faith with you after you develop a very strong proposal? That customer will say, well, yeah, let's do the full application. Hopefully the benefits outweigh my investment, whether it's in savings or in useful life extensions and added control, whatever else. I mean, how would you approach this from our perspective? Given what you know about both the ambiguity of the problem we're solving, as well as the lack of, to Nasser's point, the lack of that foundational level of support that most comparable products will have in terms of brochures, in terms of large application case studies. How would you approach this problem? And I'm sorry for putting you on the spot.
Well, it's okay. It's okay. I appreciate the question. I ask myself that in a lot of cases. Me being a very type of go-getter and aggressive type of person, I've always been, and I was trained by the founders of PowerPoint. Okay, I mean, and it's sometimes it's hard for me to put myself back that far, but
Now you're 50.
I would go after those customers that you described are few and far between. First of all, that are willing to open up to you,
Fully
use their
agree.
building as a guinea pig, whatever.
Fully agree.
Yeah. And being that the opportunity is, I think you understand the opportunity is huge, is very justifiable and worth the effort. I would go for a very well-managed, cautious approach with a customer, self-funded. Of course, the customer's going to have to put in
Some skin in the game.
something. If it's not money, then it's manpower. I mean, opening their doors to you costs them money.
Yeah.
So they've got money in it. It just may not be hard cash.
Yeah, sweat.
Yeah, sweat equity and all that. And kind of develop a relationship with that customer, explain to them that the purpose of your approach, be honest with them, and also explain to them the value of letting other customers possibly read about what you've done in their facility. I think that the first approach you just described is a better approach because it's such an untapped market right now with this particular type of technology, which is grossly different from anything I've ever seen.
Right.
As far as corrections concerned.
Right.
There's a lot of situations where customers are buying these types of systems and they're getting into the overcorrected problem, and then that's causing new harmonics and equipment failures and things of that nature. I got to figure out where Ahmed got his stimulus from to build this, design this, but I would go for the more aggressive approach.
Yeah.
Myself.
The shared savings.
No. Well,
Just actually, there's that, and then
Well,
also
the shared
fund it
savings,
yourself.
to me, is a good model, but it also delays the process because the people putting up the shared savings, again, they don't understand
Yeah, well, they have.
all the facets of what we're trying to do here. You have to have that historical behind it. 2 or 3 or 4 really good facilities, and I think we need to be careful how we pick those.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about delayed or any sort of financing or delayed
Because you're
monetization.
expending a huge amount of resources and time, sorry, I didn't interrupt,
No.
trying to get people to buy on this, Well, would the same number of resources and financial support, could that not be focused in on
One.
developing a relationship with the customer that, with both of you investing in it, you taking a part of the manageable risk, him taking a part of the manageable risk to get to this point you're trying to get to?
To get to that identification of 1, 2, or 3 viable options,
Yeah,
you have to go broad.
yeah,
net,
you do have to
and
get
then
some of
canvas
that,
and
exactly,
bring it in.
yeah. It's just a matter of how you do that, what's your objectives before you go out and do that.
I think we have 2
You're
viable
not going to a
options now.
customer to sell 10
No
units.
matter, like,
You're going to a customer to develop a relationship to possibly sell 200 units, and be able to use that site as we do this all the time, product demonstration sites. extremely valuable to people, whether they're on the rate paying side or the utility side, in deciding whether or not they want to partake in this kind of technology. Here's a perfect example. LED technology. So many products, so many snake oil situations. The government, and we were a part of this, had to go in and develop a well-oiled system to sort that out and to get these demonstrations and to get the right testing done and to have the right mechanism to get the information out into the public so the public could learn about the value of LED technology. Otherwise, it was going to become a huge quagmire of a mess, which it was on its way to becoming, until the DOE stepped in with the EPA and with EPRI, sorted all this out and said, hey, we need to know which manufacturers have really got it together, and which manufacturers don't, and we're going to sweep you to the side because we're going on with this.
Yeah, I mean, like just as a lighting example, because labor is so cheap, they'd rather buy cheap Chinese, made like.
Because people don't want to go to the trouble of installing all this stuff and it not work right.
I had one guy say, look, it's cheaper for me to buy these types of lamps and hire a Filipino guy, spend all day, just take one out, put one in, take one out, it's cheaper.
Right.
And then, because everybody wants these guys' business, because it's all about volumes, if 500 light bulbs go out, the guy just takes the old ones out and gives them 500 new ones, like that. No questions asked. All because it's all predicated on all the business meetings I have a few during the day. Most business meetings happen like at a bar with these guys.
Yeah.
And that's where you build your relationships, unfortunately, with them. And I hate doing business that way, but that's how they do business.
The guy who started HP, and I don't remember who the other one was, but two guys.
Hewlett and Packard?
Yeah, Hewlett Packard. And then
John Hewlett, Jack Packard.
One of those, I'm not sure which. Maybe it was those two. I can't remember the story now. But that was a relationship that was formed at a bar. On the back of a napkin. So this system is that system, simplified. And here's the reactive power flow for the big stuff. Or whatever. So you can imagine what this looks like on that level. We got to be able to manage it.
Oh, those are the same facilities?
Yeah, same facility. You got to be able to manage it and understand it because, these points are particularly important because this is where the transformation occurs. Which theoretically, there's no physical connection between these 2 points except magnetism. And harmonics goes right on through it.
Well, I sent Connie 2 line diagrams. If you want to review those.
Yeah, we'll look
And then give me your
Can
feedback.
you go back this one?
Sounds like you can't.
So on this, where will this be? Like how would the system solution actually be applied?
Well, we have to take this information and feed it into the computer.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought
Yeah,
that was
to
after.
be able to, this is just a condensed version of the other to show you where the heavy reactive power is flowing. And of course, you got big loads here, lighting everywhere, plug loads, and so forth. And then you got a generator, okay, that when this switches, guess what? This source is a lot different than this source. So your reactive power management is going to have to take into account what happens in the building when the utility goes away and the generator is picking up everything. Because the generator is tied to all this stuff, these 2 chillers. So if you've got SP1000s over here, it better sure darn well get along with this generator. Or something could happen and this generator trip offline.
Yeah.
That would be a bad thing. So, this is why hospitals, let's make a rule right now, okay? We don't sell any SP1000s to hospitals unless we cover these bases. We were just talking about a very good subject.
I think we're going to take a break
We missed
because
that.
Wait.
everybody's losing their
Emergency power generation.
You guys
Hold
started
on,
talking
Hold on.
to me.
This is an important point.
It's Connie's fault.
Sorry, Philip. I apologize on behalf of all these guys. Finish that point, please.
Yeah, that point was that a lot of facilities have an emergency generator, okay, or a transfer switch. This is a fairly simple one. What happens when the utility goes away? Okay, this source up here, electrically, looking back up into the utility, is a lot different than this source here looking into the generator. So if you have SP1000s over here, okay, what happens when the utility goes away and this generator kicks on? You better darn sure hope that these SP1000s and all this situation down here gets along with this generator, or something the generator may detect, may switch off the generator to protect the generator. And generators are known for producing more voltage quality problems than the utility in a lot of cases, especially related to frequency, because they don't have very good frequency stability. In other words, the 60 hertz can drift up and down by as much as a couple of hertz, and that is serious. The system, the grid, is designed to keep that frequency as close to right on the money, like 0.05 or 0.1 or something like that, in terms of the amount of drift we're allowed to have, because that causes a significant amount of problems.
Sorry, is that the same as THD? Is that the same as distortion?
What, frequency shift?
Yeah.
No. No, we're talking about changing the fundamental. So if we go start changing the fundamental frequency too much, everything starts to drift way out of whack.
So you thought you knew.
So you said a facility with an emergency backup generator, stay away from right now, or we need to be really, really careful because we won't know what happens.
I mean, we
can't take a
don't
measurement.
go in and specify SP1000s to places that have generators that are, you know, especially if they're mission critical.
Right.
I mean, a hotel is probably going to have a generator, but it's not one of the high mission critical. You know, it doesn't even, in my mind, doesn't even fall in the ranking. But if it's a data center, airport, hospital, there's others, those kinds of places. Data centers have 10 or 15 or 20 of these.
And you'll never be able to know what's going to happen because they only kick on when everything goes bad. Right?
Yeah, you can't say, I want to test your generator to see how that's
Right, so how do we figure out, so we just got to stay away from them almost?
No, you include that in your analysis. That's all I'm saying. Our analysis becomes a notch higher.
You'll be able to figure that out.
Criticality in terms of stability for facilities that operate with lots of backup power. I mean, I've been in a data center, and the plenum for the exhaust for the generators was as big as a football field. I got pictures of this stuff.
So you'll handle all that. I don't need to worry about generators. I just need to
Well,
let
you're
you know
going to
they're
come
there.
across data centers because there's a lot of them.
I know, but I'm saying I don't need to know any of this once I just need to let you know there's
Just
an
need to know
emergency
that
generator
emergency generator throws up a red flag.
for you.
Well, for you, because
Because I can't.
this is not the same as that. That's
Right.
a piece of rotating machinery that's not near as sophisticated as the power plant. Of course.
So this is interesting for maybe for me. I don't know if in the Middle East these issues exist, but every commercial and industrial facility is going to have robust generator driven backups because of the frequency of outages. I don't think it's as big of a problem in the U.S., but in the Caribbean, most countries in Central America, lots of countries in South America, it's a weekly occurrence that you have an outage.
Yeah, I know that.
So
We've studied power
for
quality
continuity,
in those countries.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
So generators are de rigueur. I mean, everybody has them. You have to have them.
Well, not every commercial facility in the U.S. has one. And I know not every industrial facility in the U.S. has one either. It depends on what their business is. If they can afford a 2-hour outage, so be it. If an ice storm comes and they're out for a couple of days, yeah, it might hurt a little, but is it really going to affect what's going on inside the building if they're just putting stuff together or moving boxes around or whatever? So, again, care must be taken in managing reactive power. Under management, we won't reach our savings, we won't improve the power factor enough, the demand charge won't go down enough. These are things we can handle, okay? We just don't get the benefits, and then we're going to have trouble convincing the customer that we can reach the benefits once this has happened. But when you get to this stage, these are the more serious issues. In my mind, these are the issues you got to be really careful not to hit on, not to get into. Overvoltaging, loads not being able to start up, power factor going too much capacitive, and you pumping too much power, reactive power, back into the utility. especially the overvoltage applies. Because remember, this is tuning is a good word. We don't want to introduce oscillations into the system that we can't control. We haven't used that word, but that comes along with the resonance.
Oscillation?
Yeah, oscillations. Some oscillations it's just like this. They get out of control until something breaks. Pockets of energy circulating in the plant that you can't stop because of reactive power. And it will find the weakest point, believe me. Because when you're dealing with megawatts of power in some of these places, they work really hard to keep this under control. And they're not going to come in there and let you tinker with it without an engineering analysis behind it. Because they have a lot to lose if something breaks or something overheats. Because again, it just causes an enormous amount of problems. The primary goal is ensure the savings, maximize the savings, and of course, I didn't put the stability point in here, but that's critical. Developing the recipe for installations. Because even if a point is from the analysis is warrants an installation, well, warrants an SP1000 to be installed there doesn't mean you can actually put it there. There's mechanical things you have to work around as well. And that's why the documentation process is so important, so that we confidently know that we can install these units where the computer tells us to. And of course, the software behind it's critically important in allowing us to get to the result. So preparing for the installations, verifying that the order is correct. This is all logistics kind of stuff and checking that Connie can assist you with and the plant people can assist you with, but you want to make sure that everything has arrived properly in good condition according to the purchase order, blah, 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 and been reviewed with the electrician and the technical contact at the customer's plant. And you have to have a clear plan for what the responsibilities are for the installation and who's responsible at that plant to lead and guide the installation, because you're dealing with huge facilities. You don't want to do anything to bog the installation process down. And that's going to be heavily geared towards around what's the plant's doing, because they're not going to allow you to get into some of this stuff without turning the power off. It just depends on what their policies are on those particular circuits.
If I may, since you sound like someone that knows what they're talking about.
Oh, that's fine.
He finally cognited
Turns
on
out.
that. Wow.
What I would like to submit is if we're able to either collectively or you guys, because it'll make ultimately it streamlines and makes your life easier and hopefully turns things around a lot quicker, is if we can build an app, which is not that complicated, but really put an app together that, so like for example, when I'm doing area studies for the Marines, I have something called a gator, and with that gator I can take pictures, measurements, fill in, it's a drop down, it's add my notes, everything.
I already had that thought.
It populates. So I was telling my brother, I was like, you know what, I can either put it on my website and then have people just fill it out there, or while I'm at the site, I can take my iPod Touch, have the app downloaded, take the pictures, write in the measurements, and it's not, I mean, the apps aren't that expensive to build. They're all pretty simple. And what we're talking about here is simple application of question, answer, question, answer, question,
Fill
answer.
in the fields.
Take pictures, write, type in the field, and then that's it.
Well,
and I can
great.
send, and it populates that data in a fashion that you would prefer being
Did we receive an email saying go download it?
Right, and then
that would be beautiful.
something that you would prefer, because I think a lot of the delay is normally misinterpretation of what I'm sending you, or I was in a hurry, so I sent you half of my thinking process.
Or you wrote down the numbers wrong, or something.
Right, so maybe something along those lines, whether it's, so I've done one for the Marines where you know what, I'm tired of looking stuff up. Let's build an app. And we built an app that had all the data in one place. So something along those lines would, I think, exponentially, because then it's a matter of either anyone who has a smartphone, or I'll start buying iPods and then giving it to my distributors and saying, hey, here you go, fill it out just like it says, send, and it populates for me, and I can go ahead and it just makes life easier.